start again. And I think that teaches us and teaches our kids how to make friends and how to speak to new people and how to get on with everybody. But it means those close bonds aren't always there. Now, Jai does have a couple of friends who he plays Minecraft with online, and that's really great because it means that he can obviously play his game, but then he can see his friend, he can talk to his friend, they can play together still. So that's really good. And he does have a couple of friends that he does that with. But most people, that's it, once they're gone, they're gone. Jai does make friends easily. He has got a lot of friends, but I think when you're constantly having to make new friends, it can be difficult. And that goes for us too as adults. So I do genuinely have that as a concern. Am I doing the right thing by Jai where he doesn't have that many long-term friends? He does have a couple of school friends from the UK, and he does have friends in England, but obviously he doesn't see them. And I kind of think, is he missing out on having those real long-lasting friendships that he would have had if he'd been in school? But what he does have is these really deep connections and deep bonds with kids from around the world who he really genuinely likes spending time with. And they might be shorter friendships and they might be quite intense friendships, but they're deep. And the ones that he still stays in touch with on Minecraft and people we see, they're real friendships as well. And they, I think, will stand the test of time, just like any school friendships would. I don't have an answer for that question. I think it always depends on the child. It depends on where you are in the world, how many other kids there are in that place. And I do think if you're traveling long term, it's really important to spend time in places where there are other families doing the same thing, because they all want the same thing that your kids do and your family does. I think it hasn't all been hard. There has been things that have been easier than I expected. And the biggest one for me, I would say, has probably been Jai adapting to everything. I did worry about him before we left. Are we doing the right thing? Will he struggle with this? Will he be okay traveling? Does he need more stability and more routine and structure? Is he going to be missing out if we take him away from school and family and all those kind of things? I think we're really lucky in that he has never seemed fazed by going to a new country. Every time we land in a new country, he just seems to adapt instantly. Even more difficult countries like India, we landed in India and he was just straight away, excited to be there, talking to people, trying the food, just taking it all in. I think in terms of the actual travel itself, he has adapted to it really, really well. So I think if you're worried about your kids' ability to adapt to traveling, they're probably going to be a lot more resilient and a lot more adaptable than you give them credit for. Kids tend to follow our leads, don't they? So if we're okay, if we're confident, if we are dealing with difficult situations in a calm way, and if we are enjoying ourselves and curious and excited as well, they'll follow our lead. If we're scared, if we're stressed, if we're overwhelmed, if we're feeling really, burnt out by everything, then that's how they're going to feel as well, because that's what kids do, don't they? They mirror how we feel, especially when they're young. But even as teenagers, they're going to pick up how you're feeling and how you're reacting to certain situations or places or people, and they're going to feel the same way. So, try to go to places where you feel comfortable and confident, at least to start with. And then once your confidence builds in traveling, then try different, more difficult places, perhaps. I think what surprised me most about Jai is his confidence and the transformation in his confidence. He wasn't the quietest kid in the world. He wasn't painfully shy before, but he wasn't very confident. So when we were at school, when he was at school, he was pretty quiet. He only had a few friends. The teacher, he's one of those kids where when you go into parent-teacher evening, I felt like the teacher didn't really know who he was, because he was obviously the quiet one. He just kept his head down, get on with it. And I'm sure she had to deal with 30 kids who were all very different, and some of them were very loud. So I think he just got forgotten about. And that's how he was in life. He just was quiet. He was in the background. He had a few friends. The child I know now is totally different. And coming back to the UK for a couple of months and seeing family and friends who knew him back then, everybody has commented on his change and how confident he is now and how open he is and outgoing and talkative. And he'll talk to grown-ups, he'll talk to kids, he'll talk to everybody. He's just more confident and he's more happy and he's more outgoing and he's more open. And I think he's just more sure of himself. And, you know, obviously the difference between a 6-year-old when we first left the UK and he's 8 now, 2 years of change is all kids change. But I really do believe that being put in these situations on repeat, you know, these challenging situations, these new situations with new people, with new environments, with new cultures, with new everything, it creates something in kids and adults that you just can't get if you stay in one country. You know, and it's the same for us too. I mean, I have become more confident, especially when I was traveling, when I was in India on my own with Jai. I had to do everything myself in a country that was not always the easiest. And it builds that confidence in you. And the more confident you become in difficult situations, the more confident you are in, you know, normal situations. And, you know, I'm really pleased to say that he is really excited to leave the UK again. He loves being back, but he's really excited to get out there again and see more of the world. So that makes me feel really good about the choices that I've made. In terms of what surprised me most about myself is, it's kind of similar to Jai, I think. I found out that I am more resilient than I knew I was. Now, I travelled a lot when I was younger, but I think when you're travelling on your own and when you're in your 20s, it's very different from when you're travelling in your 40s or when you're older and when you've got kids. It's a different feel. And obviously, I'm not going out partying every night like I was in my 20s. I'm responsible for a small person. So, I mean, there were times when I was on my own, whether you're on your own or not. When you are making decisions and having to deal with problems and sometimes potentially quite scary situations in a different country with a child or with kids, you realise that you can do anything. You can do hard things. And that then translates to other areas of your life, doesn't it? So whether you come back to the UK or not, having these skills that you have developed when you've been travelling, they translate to your career, to your business, so everything else that you might do in your life, dealing with, you know, conflict. You know that you can deal with these situations because you have, and you had no choice and you managed to do it. So now you can go, yeah, I know I can deal with difficult things. I can do stuff that other people maybe can't. And that builds a real sense of self-worth and self-confidence that staying in one place and living your normal life and your normal routines probably wouldn't give you. But obviously, if you've got a partner to bounce those ideas off, it makes life a lot easier. So when I was on my own, it was more difficult, but it was still manageable. When I was with Jeff, it was slightly easier, but those things are still there. You know, I think a lot of people, maybe especially women, don't give themselves credit for how capable they are. They don't realise how capable they are until they're put in a situation where they have to show up and be capable. And even though it might feel uncomfortable at the time, the mindset shift that it gives you for yourself and for your future is really incredible. The thing that nobody really warns you about, and this is the thing I haven't really seen many people talk about, and I'm sharing it because I think it's important, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person that feels this. But at some point you start questioning things. You know, I started questioning things like, am I doing the right thing by Jai? Or is it just what I want and I'm dragging him along for the ride? And then you start thinking, well, could I go back to the UK and be happy? You know, could I ever be happy back in the UK? Could I settle there again? And if I don't live in the UK, where can I live? Like, where in the world would be the right place for us? Or are we just stuck in this loop, constantly searching for something, not really sure what I'm searching for, but you know, maybe we can't live in the countries that I want to live in. So where could we be? Where would we end up? Would we ever end up anywhere? Are we going to just travel forever? It's this kind of feeling of nowhere really feels like home anymore. And you don't really feel grounded or settled anywhere. You can be happy in lots of places, but that real home, feeling of home and feeling grounded, like where would that be? Is that even possible for me anymore? And I don't have an answer to any of that because I don't. And I'm back in the UK now, and I'm telling you, I don't want to stay here. For me, this isn't the place for me, and this isn't the place for me to bring up my child. Lots of reasons why, but it's just, But yeah, I don't have an answer, and I'm still pondering it, really. But, when I left the UK, I was certain that I wanted to travel, certain that this was the life that I wanted for us, and we wanted. And we've had an incredible time. But I think there just comes a point where you start questioning, well, how long do we travel for? Can we travel forever? Do we want to travel forever? Do we want to have roots somewhere? And if yes, where would that be? And then how would traveling work after that? Or how would visas work, or money, or, so many questions. And I think that's part of this that nobody really talks about. And what's less visible, even for the people who are saying how amazing traveling is that invisible inner voice that I think most people probably have. And the kind of not always knowing if what you're doing is the right thing, or if it's what you want to do, or when are we going to move on? And if we do move on, where are we going to go? What about family in the UK? There's so many things that people obviously don't talk about and don't show you. And I'm sharing this with you because I think if you're seriously thinking about leaving the UK, or if you're planning it, or if you're about to do it, or if you've already started, I just think these thoughts, the sort of questioning and the uncertainty is totally normal. And it's not a sign that you shouldn't do it at all, because the answers might come to you while you're away. Or they might never come, and that's okay as well. We don't have to have the answers to everything, do we? Moving abroad with kids will completely change your life in every way, but it will also change it in ways that you don't expect. In your kids, in yourself. And if you're at the start of this process, if you're starting to plan things and you're not really sure how to move forward, but you've got lots of ideas, the UK Exit Starter Kit is going to help you with the planning, the logistics, the budget, and all sorts of other things that you need to start getting your head around before you make this happen. I've linked it in the description, so go and have a look. And if this video resonates, and if you feel like this is something that is helpful to you, then please don't forget to like and subscribe, and tell other people about it as well, because that's how this channel will grow, and that's how we start this movement of families who are taking action and starting to live their dream life. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.